It's now late August of 2025 as we roll through the plains of Alberta. The harvest is still going strong, and combines are in every other field. There are also quite a few oil pumps, a lot of which we've seen so far on this journey. We would be spending a couple of weeks here in Alberta, and during that time we would see a lot of trains. On our way to Banff, Alberta, we stopped in the town of Canmore, and spending a couple of hours there, we would come across 3 trains. The first of which snuck up on me so I couldn't film the head end, was a mixed manifest also headed towards Banff. And then another train came past, sneaking up on me again and headed in the same direction. This one was another mixed manifest. I should also mention that a lot of the CPKC freight trains that I saw during this trip were absolutely massive, so much longer than I've ever seen before. Then came the third and final train we'd see in Canmore, a grain train headed to Banff with one of CN's ex-City Rail locomotives in the lead. This, I believe, is maybe the first time I've ever seen a CN locomotive in the lead of a CPKC train. Awesome. The following evening, we're in Banff. Specifically, we're at the Banff train station where the Rocky Mountaineer is just now coming in from its run from Vancouver. We had arrived here about 15 minutes before the train got here in hopes of actually seeing it arrive at the station, and we got our wish almost immediately. The Rocky Mountaineer is a tourist railroad that operates separately from any other railroad in Canada. It actually began life as a daytime, once-weekly Via Rail service from Vancouver to Jasper, but became its own separate thing in March of 1990. A few minutes after the Rocky Mountaineer came to a stop, a CPKC mixed manifest came racing the other way. If you look really closely, you can see as either an elk or a deer crosses the tracks right in front of the train. This is why the engineer had to turn off the ditch lights. It would be too bright and he wouldn't be able to see the deer. He turned them on shortly after it passed by. Now, a bit of a warning here. The train, as it passes by us, is going to blow the horn as there is a level crossing directly next to the station. So you may want to adjust your volume accordingly, so just be ready for that. Shortly after the freight train passed through, the Rocky Mountaineer's power detached from the head end of the train and ran round to the back. Now the locomotives switch back to their original track and back all the way down to the consist of the train to hook up to the other end. This is done because tomorrow morning, this train will be on the roll again, headed back towards Vancouver. Doing this maneuver right now saves the train crew having to do it tomorrow when everyone is waiting to board the train. A few days later, we're in Lake Louise getting ready for a big long drive all the way down to Jasper, Alberta. It's a beautiful drive, although a little bit long. Upon arriving in the town of Jasper, we came across CN number 2504, a C44-9WL, a locomotive type which is actually pretty rare, so I'm glad I caught this. I had actually completely forgotten that Jasper is actually a really significant place when it comes to Canadian railroading. The rail yard here is enormous and super busy. There were inbound and outbound trains up the wazoo, there was a local working the yard, and there was just so much action going on here. Also, I feel like this is a good time to mention that I actually really like the CN paint scheme. I know there are a lot of rail fans who bash it for being bland, uninteresting, boring, and yeah, I kind of agree that there may be some more exciting liveries out there, but maybe it's just my Canadian rail fan bias coming out, but I still really enjoy this one. After watching the action unfold from the Via Rail station in town, we moved to a trackside restaurant where we got some pretty excellent views of the local working the yard, being run by CN number 3923, an ex-CREX locomotive. Then you had the inbound freight trains coming into the yard, which came through every few minutes really, including this intermodal. Then came something that I was not expecting to see here at all. It's a Herzog train. The term Herzog train is in reference to the equipment used. The rolling stock you see here is used to automatically dump ballast onto the sides of the rails. The ballast is the small rocks that you see on the sides of the tracks. One of the most prominent features of this town that any rail fan will immediately be drawn to is this steam locomotive from Canadian National number 6015. It's designated as a Class U1A. It's a 482 mountain type locomotive, 16 of which were ordered by Canadian National. I'm not entirely sure why this one has Christmas lights on it though, considering that this was shot in August. The next day, we take a 5-minute drive up to Morant's Curve, one of the most famous shots in all of North American railroading. I was stoked to be here. One of the things that you need if you want to get into this hobby is patience. A lot of patience. When we were here, it took us 6 hours over 2 attempts to catch a train finally. Even though the lighting isn't the greatest in this shot, I still am absolutely thrilled to have been able to catch a train in Morant's Curve. But it did take a long time. Apart from being an extremely scenic and beautiful spot, it also has a lot of historical significance. It was named after Nicholas Morant, an employee for CPKC, well, CP back then, whose favorite photography location was this place. The plethora of images he took at this location were instrumental in solidifying Morant's Curve as a beautiful spot along the CPKC for rail fans, and helped boost tourism and railway travel. Overall, Alberta was awesome. I have CPKC trackage where I live back home, but I would have to be incredibly lucky to catch even a single CPKC train whenever I go out railfanning back in Ontario. So the fact that I was able to get this lucky here, seeing this many trains in such a short span of time, was an awesome experience. But if you think this was really cool, wait for the next video on this channel where we'll be going to BC and we'll be seeing at least twice as many trains as we did here. That video will be coming out very soon, so stay tuned.